Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkars Tavern blog, Discord server, maybe group, Facebook group, you know the deal. So, I was actually looking at Under Ilfarn, N5, to do a video on it, of all things, and I noticed it had skill checks in it. I was like, is this the first time that we had skill checks? Because the other adventure I want to look at is N4, but I figured, all right, I will do my Google to do a Google search, and I found an article on Grognardia from 2009. This is from over 15 years ago, and uh, Matthew Stanham did some great research, and I figured we would take a peek at it. The earliest place I know of where an attribute check is mentioned is under the dig spell description in the first edition of the AD&D Player's Handbook, 1977, page 76. I didn't know. I didn't pull out my Player's Handbook or look at my PDF, but this is very interesting. Any creature at the edge 1 foot of such a pit uses its dexterity score as a saving throw to avoid falling into the hole, with a score equal to or less than the dexterity, meaning that a fall was avoided. Whoever wrote that spell description was certainly using them in whatever form: d20, 2d6, 3d6, 46, etc. Well, I think that they're saying saving throw. Saving throws, much like attacks, are on a d20. So I think that they just assumed that you would know. The AD&D DMG, again, first edition, 1979, page 110, has this to say on the subject of task resolution in general. There will be times in which rules do not cover a specific action that a player will attempt. All right. In such situations, instead of being forced to make a decision, take the option to allow the dice to control the situation. So they were already thinking that we didn't cover this in the initial D&D. This can be done by assigning reasonable probability to an event and then letting the player dice to see if he or she, well, actually it says he or he, that must be a typo there, he or she can make that percentage. You can weigh the dice in any way so as to give the advantage to either the player or the non-player character, the player or the event, the player or the challenge. Whichever seems more correct and logical to you, the DM, while being fair to both sides. So this is something that you kind of lose out as the editions get further and further. This empowerment of the DM, this idea that, well, the DM has to be impartial, right? Fair to both sides. Well, are you fair to your player, or you're fair to what? The event, the story? I mean, I think you, generally speaking, will always weight a little bit in the player's favor. That's just me. Which obviously does not preclude an attribute check of some sort, but is more reassuringly generalized and restates what Holmes says, 1979, page 41. You are sure to encounter situations not covered by these rules. Improvise. Agree on a probability that an event will occur and convert it to a die roll. Roll the number and see what happens. Now, Matthew goes on to talk about the introductory box set to AD&D 2E First Quest, something that I never owned, surprisingly enough, and I've never even heard much about it. I've never heard players, gamers, OSR players talk about First Quest. So I'm wondering if it's worthwhile me tracking that down and doing a video on it. Or maybe there's already a video on it, and this is like, oh. Oof. DMs decide what happens. If necessary, they just make it up. Well, definitely. DMs decide what percentage chance an action not covered in the rules has of working. If a dungeon master's D100 roll is less than or equal to that number, the action worked. DMs are always allowed to decide that a character's action automatically does or does not work. DMs are always allowed to change a die roll if they think there's a good reason. Wow. Oh, that's fudging dice. But that's told what you can do. Dungeon masters should always be fair. So sometimes I guess changing the dice in the goal of not story, but in the goal of a good session can be acceptable. Right? Because classic RPGs aren't about the story, they're about the emerging story. They are about players working together to achieve their goals. And thereby the story emerges. That's just my thought. So, like I said, Under Ilfarn, I believe that's N5, is going to be on my rereading list because I ran that many a time in my college years. It was a go-to setting starter. You know, you could start a campaign with it. And Treasure Hunt N4, I ran a couple of times. It introduced zero-level characters. So things that I think that it'll be fun for me to poke at and review. It's not going to be a review. It's going to be me finding interesting stuff to talk about type of review. So, folks, for those at home that don't have a video in front of them, tenkars-tavern.games/Gygax takes you to a humble bundle. It's a huge bundle of material from Gary, Luke, Ernie, and and a sneeze, and other authors. Oh, sorry about that. Other authors that are certainly and publishers that are Gygax adjacent. So if you want to support this channel, you want to support what we do, help me with my allergies. That's a great way to do it and get something for yourself. Other than that, be safe, be well, God bless, love is nice, well. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. I'll catch you all later. Be good.